Remember, they voted late September on the debt ceiling and actually passed it. But when it made it to the Senate Republicans said that they were going to fold their hands and they didn't want to be involved in it. But when the time came closer to October 18th, which is only a few days away, as we well know, Mitch McConnell changed his mind and agreed upon at least a temporary $450 billion, or at least until December 3rd. They believe that's how much the money will last. That's what the Treasury Department is saying. That money will last until December 3rd, and by then they should have a permanent debt ceiling. Well, even though the Senate has agreed upon it starting last week, the House once again has to vote at least upon this temporary measure that was approved in the Senate. And then after that, of course, this week, the president has already said that he's going to sign it. So it's looking good to have this measure already passed. Now, as we focus on the infrastructure bill, once again, Bernie Sanders versus Joe Manchin. Looks like two older guys in the ring, almost like an episode of Grumpy Old Men. And Rachel Maddow just interviewed Bernie Sanders in regards to how he feels about Joe Manchin's statement about us being an entitlement country.
You always speak your mind. You never leave any ambiguity or shadow or gray area in terms of what you want and what you're seeking and why. Still, though, it was remarkable to hear your blunt language today about your Senate Democratic colleague, about Senator Manchin, and how you feel like he's essentially behaving in an unfair way. What led you to that point today?
Well, I think there is a growing frustration, not only in the Congress, but among the American people, that now is the time, Rachel, for us to try to restore the faith of the American people in their democracy and in their government, that we, in fact, can do meaningful things for them, that we can improve their lives. And all that we are trying to do in many ways is to do what countries all over the world are doing. Is it really very radical to say that older people in America should not have rotting teeth in their mouth, or should not be able to afford hearing aids or eyeglasses, or that disabled people should be able to stay home and get the care they need at home rather than be forced into a nursing home, or that working families should pay 20, 25, 30% of their income for childcare. And then when you deal with the issue of climate, just last week, scientists working on climate change got the Nobel Prize. Climate change is the existential threat to our planet. We cannot walk away from that issue and then go back to our kids and grandchildren and say, we couldn't do it. This is the future of the planet. So I am tired of the generalities, hearing what Mr. Manchin and frankly, Ms. Sinema are saying. And if they want to negotiate, let's negotiate. But when you got the overwhelming majority of the American people, the overwhelming majority of the Democratic House and Senate caucus, when you got the President of the United States, it's not a 50-50 deal. Mr. Manchin deserves to be heard. He deserves to get some compromises, but it is wrong for one or two people to think that they can dictate the outcome of this process.
Once again, Bernie Sanders is correct in regards to his statements about us being able to do what other countries are already doing. Most people don't know that the United States does not even rank in the top 20 countries when it comes to being free. Now, I'm not talking about when it comes to freedom of speech or certain unalienable rights. I'm talking about free education, free universal health care. I'm talking about when it comes to having to be able to pay for your hearing, your vision, and your dental absolutely free. There are certain things that most of the world has already moved ahead on years ago, and Senator Sanders is absolutely correct. It's time for us, being the richest country in the world, to take that step forward and actually allow ourselves to truly be the land of the free. That doesn't necessarily mean that we become a socialist country, like many people are trying to say that Bernie Sanders is trying to do, turn us into a socialist country. No, we're a capitalist country, and we're the best that ever did it. However, at the end of the day, there are some things that you are entitled to. You are entitled to Medicare changes. You are entitled to your Social Security cost of living adjustment to be fair, because you've paid off into it. You are entitled to it. Our military troops, as well as veterans, are entitled to these funds that they have already put their lives on the line to protect us as U.S. citizens. So when senators such as Joe Manchin, who come from a small state such as West Virginia, no offense to those that live in West Virginia, who sits back as if they're in a bird seat, as if they're some type of president trying to hold back the rest of the country from advancing and receiving the benefits that you deserve, including another round of stimulus payments, there is no excuse at all.
Now, Senator Manchin, as I understand it, talked about today about not wanting to see our country become an entitlement society. Well, I am not exactly sure what he means by that. Does that mean that we end the $300 direct payments for working class parents, which have cut childhood poverty in this country as a result of the American Rescue Plan in half? Is protecting working families and cutting childhood poverty an entitlement? Does Senator Manchin think we should once again have one of the highest levels of childhood poverty of any major country on earth? At a time when millions of seniors in Vermont, in West Virginia, all across this country, have teeth in their mouths that are rotting, when they can't afford hearing aids in order to communicate with their grandchildren, and when they can't afford a pair of glasses in order to read a newspaper, does Senator Manchin really believe that seniors are not entitled to digest their food and that they're not entitled to hear and see properly? Is that really too much to ask in the richest country on earth, that elderly people have teeth in their mouth and can see and can hear? Does Senator Manchin not believe that we have to end the absurdity of the United States paying by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, sometimes 10 times more for a particular drug than is paid in Canada or other countries around the world? Does Senator Manchin believe that we should be the only major country on earth not to guarantee paid family and medical leave, and that working mothers should not be able to stay home with a child who is sick? Are workers not entitled to be able to do that? Does Senator Manchin believe that working class parents in West Virginia and Vermont should not have to pay? Does he believe that they should have to pay 25 or 30% of their incomes on child care? All over this country, working class families are paying 25 or 30% of their incomes on child care so that they could go out and do their jobs. Are the children of this country not entitled to high quality child care and pre-K education? Does Senator Manchin not believe that working families in this country are entitled to affordable housing, and that we should not have some 600,000 people in America, including many veterans, sleeping out on the streets?
From the way that it looks like Bernie Sanders, as well as myself, do not understand where Joe Manchin is getting the idea of us being an entitlement society, when the things that we're asking for are things that we have paid for as taxpayers for years, long before Joe Manchin even became a senator. Well, at the end of the day, we're glad to have individuals such as Bernie Sanders, other senators and congressmen that are fighting on our behalf to make sure that this infrastructure stimulus bill does not fall by the wayside. Hopefully, they get all this done before they have to focus on the debt ceiling again in December, as well as the budget, the federal budget that'll be coming up in December as well.